Hi. Thank you guys for getting out here so early on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. Like I said, this is the first time I've been getting to talk at a security conference, and you have volunteered yourselves for pain because we're going to talk social engineering a better world. Fair warning, I bounce a lot, and I don't have a presenter, so I'm going to have to jump back and forth and hit the space bar a lot. This is going to be a little bit of a different talk. It's not technical in nature, but it is geared and specifically focused on human interaction and the human element. So let's go ahead and start off by introducing myself. Hi, I'm Brian.
One on the bottom.
Yeah, well, you know, depends on the time of day. I'm Brian. I'm an information security researcher and analyst with GuidePoint Security. I work with the VSOC as well as work with our threat intelligence and threat hunting teams. I am a malware analyst on our team. I kind of wear a lot of different hats. We're a small group, so I get to basically play with a lot of different tools and a lot of different toys. It's really, really fun. I am a professional meme slinger, so be warned. My job right now is I am explicitly a blue teamer, so I am entirely focused on stopping bad guys rather than actually being a bad guy, although I have worked as a pen tester in the past. Dad joke maker, I have 3 young children, and I have had the mantle of dad jokes passed to me from my father-in-law. And I am a huge coffee addict, so if you don't see me with a cup of coffee, then there's a fair chance that somebody's going to die. If you want to catch me and my rants and raves, I'm at Rainman_A on Twitter. Quick disclaimer, standard one. The information being presented to you today does not necessarily reflect the opinions of my employers, past, present, or future. They're really not even my opinions. I Googled them. This is all stuff from the internet, and we all know you can trust what you see on the internet. Let's start out with social engineering. And before I get into this, I know you said be respectful. I move quickly, and I bounce, and I jump, and I talk fast. If you've got questions, if you've got concerns, if you're like, hey, that's spelled wrong, let me know. I don't care. I like feedback. It makes me feel like I'm interacting with you. Otherwise, I feel like you're going to sleep. Let's talk about this for a second. How many of you guys have ever done social engineering? Really, that's you. How many of you interact with human beings? There are a few hands that are actually down. So I feel you, my server brethren. Social engineering is, there's a lot of different definitions, but essentially what social engineering is communicating with a purpose, right? In the context of red teaming, when you are communicating with someone, you're actually attempting to achieve a goal. So this is just Webster's dictionary, so you can look that up. Basically, it's communicating with a goal and using psychological principles to lead the person you're interacting with to a course of action or inaction that you want, right? So in the case of security, I worked for about 1.5 years as a social engineering focused pen tester. It was a lot of fun. We did almost exclusively phishing, spear phishing. We OSINTed targets, and we were very good. I believe when I left, the people I actually spoke to during phone call engagements, I had an 85 or 89% success rate. In phishing, general phishing, I sent out probably almost 100,000 emails a month. Out of that, I had about a 42% success rate. Spear phishing went up to 92. So these principles are foundational, and we were very, very good at getting people to give us information they weren't supposed to give us. So inside of the context of pen testing and security testing, you are attempting to get someone to compromise their company, their resources, to give you what you want. It is focused on the elicitation of information we aren't supposed to have. How many of you have ever had someone, with like a security badge walk you into a data center? It's a weird feeling, right? So the other versions of social engineering, and this is what we're going to really focus on today, is counseling and therapy, hostage negotiation, sales and marketing. The same principles we use to get people to walk us into a data center are the same principles that we can use to help people who have addictions, the same principles that we use to work with at-risk kids, the same principles that we use to communicate with our spouses. So, real quick, let's do another quick survey. Communicating with a purpose, with that definition in mind, how many of you are social engineers? Everybody is. We are all engineers of how we interact socially. It is focused on behavioral change and leading to a choice. So are you getting to the point? I don't know. I might eventually get to a couple of points on accident. The old saying, just a quick reference, I'm actually from the Asheville area. So the old colloquialism is very true. Even a blind squirrel gets a nut every once in a while. So I'll hit a couple of points, I promise. It'll be on accident though. So let's talk about this for a second. The FBI uses this behavioral stairway model, specifically focusing on hostage negotiation. Well, take a look at these, right? How many of you have been through any kind of a social engineering course? Does this look familiar? This is the exact same principles that we use in counseling. It's the exact same principles we use in hostage negotiation, which is what it was made for. It's also the same principles we use as social engineers. You begin with active listening. You've got to start out hearing what your target is saying, right? We're going to go into more depth here, but everything focuses into a social engineering engagement, a counseling engagement, or talking with your spouse, your best friend, your boss. It starts out with listening. So, let's talk about it for a second. Active listening. This is a really profound definition. You ready? Listen. Active. All right. Anybody in here speak another language? Somebody give me hello. How are you? Guten Tag. Wie geht's dir? Oh. Сава. Здравствуйте.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Beautiful. Say again. I'm not even going to try to butcher that with my poor Appalachian slang. But, so, we're all saying the same thing, but how many of you understood everything that was just said? It's kind of a small number, because everybody's communicating in a different manner. Well, the thing is, even though, as security professionals, we all communicate in English, people aren't really understanding us. So let's start out with active listening. Number one thing you have to do to understand someone is to listen, right? To understand the language that they're using and to learn to communicate with them. So the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would like done unto them. We start that with listening. And the way that you listen, I love this particular character because you can see it. It's got the ear, it's got your eyes, your undivided attention to your heart. So the main point of active listening is that everything you are taking in, you are taking it in with your ears, you're taking it in with your eyes, but you're also taking it in with your personality, your heart, as it were. You're listening to someone and you're saying, okay, so I'm going to hear what you have to say, but not just what you're saying. I'm going to also try to hear what you're saying and where you're saying it from. We'll get into this more in just a little bit, but some techniques, right? And these are outlined in a number of different places. You can just Google active listening and you're going to find some stuff. I helped write a newsletter about active listening, and these are some of the tips that, as social engineers, this is what we came up with. To listen. Shocking. Profound. Deep. Did we? Acknowledge what's being said, right? So as someone's talking to you, you can generally tell when they've shut you off, right? So, yeah. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, I'm totally with you. And at that point, my wife looks at me and goes, do you even know what you just volunteered yourself for? Acknowledge what is being said. Restating the points. I mean, don't be sarcastic, don't be caustic about it, but restate the points to make sure you're processing everything correctly. Repeat it. Repeat back what you've been told. Reframe it. Say, so as I'm understanding you, my wife's name is Karen, so as I'm understanding what you're saying here, Karen, you really, really need me to go to the kitchen, take the trash, put it in the trash can, and then make sure that I put a bag back in, right? Yeah, I'm not sure that I can really do that. What? You said the toilet paper roll is empty? All three of them? Again? We'll see. Again, no. Moving on. You ask questions. Active listening is actively interacting with another person. Talking with them and saying, hey, so how did that make you feel? Where were you when this happened? Get some context. Also, watch the body language. So as you guys can see, I'm moving around. Anybody do any body language reading? All right, so what does my body language? Oh, it broke. Yeah. Once again, we need a sacrifice. Who's volunteer? You've got to sacrifice it.
Finally, the live stream has your slides too. So
awesome.
I was like, do I dare try this?
So I don't know. Do you guys post slides and stuff? Or?
Yeah, our best.
Okay. Sweet. I'll have my slides out. I'll tweet them from my Twitter account. You can download them. If you've got any questions, hit me up. My DMs are open. But watch the body language. So those of you that can kind of read body language, what does my body language so far tell you?
You're open, you're direct with us, you're trying to be honest.
Yeah.
You're kind of hipster a little bit.
I thought you liked to be.
I do.
But why would you cuss me like that, man? Hipster?
Might be a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, I don't know. So, the story behind the shoes is these were like the cheapest shoes ever when I was a kid. And I grew up on a farm, so we didn't have a ton of cash. So, I grew up wearing Chuck Taylors, and now they're like hipstery and $50. And that's it. Hold on, I need somebody's glasses without lenses. Hurry, I gotta look like I know what I'm talking about. But my body language is open. I'm trying to be very honest. I'm trying to, express myself in a way that opens who I am to you. I don't want you to feel like I'm being false when I'm putting on a side. But don't get lost in it, right? So if you sit and you watch and you're trying to detect things, there are certain points that you're going to see me conceal something. I'm going to hold back just a little bit because, let's face it, you guys really don't need to know how many times my kids go to the bathroom. As a dad, though, that's something that I think about. Don't get lost in that because you'll start to detect things that might not be pertinent to the discussion you're having. Keep your mind engaged. Stay focused on what's going on. Be in the present. So, like I said, if you allow yourself to get distracted and start to wander, it's going to cause you to lose track of the conversation. Not only that, but it's going to cause you to lose the ability to develop rapport with this person. Because you can tell when somebody shuts you down. Just like my wife can tell when I shut her down in her discussion about trash bags. So, biggest thing though, don't interrupt. Everybody is the hero of their own story. Your job as a social engineer, as a counselor, as a pen tester, is to find a place to develop yourself into their story. right? Cool. All right. Okay. That was weird. So this all moves into helping us to develop empathy. I'm going insane. Two people like this. Perfect empathy right there. But I really like this comment. We were driving up here from my house, and my sister-in-law's here. She was helping me put the slideshow together. It's like, this is beautiful. Empathy. He's holding a mirror and asking for a handout. What better way? But just look at this real quick. What's Tiger feeling?
He is mine.
So this is considered the universal face of pain. It doesn't matter what culture you're in. The face of pain is in. If I'm remembering correctly, at this point in his career, he had a serious back injury. So when he took the swing, it actually torqued his spine and ruptured a disc. He continued to play. This was years and years ago, before all the fun stuff came out about him and other personal issues. But developing empathy is specifically moving to the Greek words, em, from in or inside, pathos, to feel. So what you are attempting to do when you are developing empathy with a person is you are attempting to feel what the other person is feeling. So we're trying to literally walk a mile in the other person's shoes. Trying to think, I've got a good point of reference for that, a good picture, but I can't think of one just off the top of my head. But,
Just to give you a break for it while you're thinking, I think pathos actually means suffering in Greek.
I thought passing was suffering. Or a passeo.
Well, for pathos you get pathology, for example.
When I looked up the etymology, it was a little bit different. But for those of you that can't hear what he's saying, he said that he thinks pathos is suffering. To be totally honest, I'm not 100% sure. But you know what? Now you said it. I'm going to look it up as soon as I finish.
But if you're doing a pen test or something, you're feeling their suffering. That's not necessarily inappropriate either.
You're feeling their suffering. You're enjoying the suffering.
If you work in security, you're suffering on the inside.
We're all dead on the inside anyway, right? So, but the goal with empathy development is either feeling with them the suffering or feeling what they're feeling. It's kind of either or. You are attempting to experience what the other person is experiencing. So let's start out, though, and define a few things that what empathy is not. Empathy is not cultural appropriation. You're not going to be able to develop the empathy necessary to actually experience life as someone you're not. Right? I am a middle-class white male from Appalachia. I have no clue what the African American community is experiencing in Harlem. I can't fully understand that. And if I try to immerse myself in the culture, it's going to look weird. But what I can do is say, okay, so here's what I know. Here's how I would potentially feel in this situation. And it's not going to be the best thing in the world, but it will help me to better tailor my communication to someone who is from a different culture, someone who is from a different background, right? I got in trouble when I was doing some training as a social engineer because I was extremely effective at playing the country bumpkin who was out of place in the big city. And it worked. It worked like a charm. And I ended up getting in trouble because they said, well, we'd like to see you move out of your comfort zone. And I moved too far. I moved into the realm of cultural appropriation and actually had quite a few people approach me and say, look, that was starting to get into the realm of offense. I had one guy that said, that was just flat out messed up and wrong. You should never, ever, ever do that again. You are bad and you should feel bad. So from that, I had to kind of make some changes. And just a quick side note, don't be afraid to say I'm sorry. Right? There are no two words in the English language that are more powerful and more disarming than saying, you know what? Mea culpa, I'm sorry, my bad. But not just that, learn from it. So also, this is not, developing empathy is not an excuse for bad behavior. You're not saying to someone, you know what, you've been through a lot, so I understand that you want to, hit me with a crowbar. It's not that. There are certain realms. You can understand what somebody's feeling, but you still have to keep it within the bounds of the engagement or within the bounds of the communication. There are other things that empathy's not, but when I wrote this, I put in a placeholder and forgot to remove it. Real professional slide work right here, guys. Okay. The practice of empathy is considering others' experience. Try to experience another culture. Study someone else's beliefs. You're not going to figure this out just on a whim and on the fly. We're all very, very smart people, but you've got to develop this. This is not something that naturally comes to all of us. I don't know about most of you guys, but I'm naturally very antisocial. I'm an introvert. I don't like people very much. So this is a practice for me. But most critically, shut up and listen. You've got something great to say. Sure. But so do they. And the point of developing empathy is to hear what they have to say. Rapport. So this photo was taken in my kitchen. That is my 2-year-old daughter, Evie. Rapport is the practice of developing trust using integrity. I don't know about you, but she had a lot of trust in that chair. That chair has developed her trust using its integrity. And I'm not kidding. She sat like that. I pulled her off 3 times, and she kept getting up. And finally, I was like, you know what? Forget it. You're going to fall, you'll learn. She doesn't learn. She just falls. Yes, repeatedly. Did not deter her. So, in rapport development, you're actually trying to develop a relationship. You're developing behavioral equity to speak to someone. So, these are the main methods of rapport building, right? The great thing is there's actually a story behind these. I believe it was Robin Drake, former FBI behavioral profiler, and we'll talk a little bit more about him later. But he was asked to write a newspaper article about rapport. So what does he do? He's like, okay, well, I'm sitting in a bar, I've got nothing better to do, give me a napkin. He scribbled out the top 10. These are the methods that he used to develop rapport. So ego suspension, in my experience, is by far the most powerful. Ego suspension is, long and short, it's not about you. Validating others, right? So when we express how we feel about something, as a counselor, you're trained to say, how did that make you feel? Because it sounds trite, but the goal is actually to develop rapport with this person, to validate them, and to let them express themselves. So, another point though, ask open-ended questions. If you are not asking an open-ended question, you are closing the conversation. Yes, no answer will kill it. Period, the end, nothing else. Give people a chance to talk, and they will. Tit for tat is something for something, right? So if I expect for you to give me something, I'm going to walk up to you, and during phishing engagements, this was a really critical thing, which just started out the engagement. Good afternoon, this is Jim Johnson with IT Help Desk. We've recently been receiving some calls about an odd piece of malware, and I just need to verify your computer's not on the list. Can I just need to run through some technical details, make sure that I've got the record right, and get you to read me off your serial number. So immediately, I have given them a few pieces of information. Given them my name, even though it's not really my name, they don't know that. They're over a phone. What are they going to do? Yell at me and hang up? That's a finding. I've also given them my department, I've given them why I'm calling, and I've given them the information I'm going to give them. I've told them what I'm going to tell them. Then I tell them they can correct and they can add. Because now they have received something and they're inclined to give something back. This moves into the realm of behavioral economics. Dan Ariely did an extensive amount of research, and he found that during one of his experiments, they were giving a set amount of money for participating in the study to a group of participants. And they were testing to see what was the proper motivation for people to save the money. So what they would do is they tried a control. They would give them the money and just see who saved it. Their results were about 10%. Then they said, okay, this didn't work out so well, so let's remind them. So they gave them the money and said, and remember, if you save, we will match you. And they motivated them. And then they're like, okay, well, let's see how social pressure works. They gave them the money, and then they had their participants' children call them and remind them to save the money. So they went from generally about a 15 to 25% uptake rate, and then shot up to about 40%. But what really, really made an impact was when they gave them a card with scratch-offs. And you scratched off every time that you saved money for that week. Their uptake shot up to nearly 50%. So giving a gift, tit for tat, those work in the realm of behavioral economics. If you notice a lot of times, and also we'll again discuss it later, there's been extensive research done by Robert Cialdini who said, when you're walking up to someone, give them something. Here, can you hold this for a second? You're handing them something. As we, as humans, innately take something into our hand, we begin to become more compliant to the desires of others, even if we're about to give it back. It's instinctive. Humans survived for millennia because we are social creatures. We conglomerate as a herd, and that is the instincts that you're exploiting as a social engineer or leveraging to make an impact. Artificial time constraints. It doesn't even have to be specific. Hi, can I have a moment of your time? You guys walk through malls and you've heard the survey guys. Hi, I'm from da-da-da-da-da, and I need just a moment of your time. No, just go away. But the thing is, that is a principle that actually is functional. It works. Body language. This is going to keep coming up. In developing rapport, it's not just watching their body language, it's watching your own. The message you want to portray is going to be pivotal, and it's going to be expressed through your body. So, great examples, a great contrast. Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, right? Bill Clinton, that man had to have coaching. He was just beautiful communicator. Whatever you think politically, the guy was a communication genius. He could look at you, who's the comedian? Frank Caliendo. Jokes. Clinton was an amazing liar because he was an amazing communicator. I am not here. Well, now what is the definition of is? What definitions does a word have? But it raised questions, and just that genuine openness, that wonderful communication style made us think. You contrast that with George W. Bush. That, again, doesn't matter what you think politically. His body language was all over the place. It was, the swagger he carried himself with was very typical in Texas, but it didn't really apply very well to other areas, right? You go up into the Northeast where space is more constrained. Body language tends to be a little bit more close in. Versus Texas, it's wide open in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. So, you've got that disconnect. Speak slowly. The reason that this one works is the human brain comprehends things at a certain rate. And if you speak faster than someone is going to understand, you're going to do one of two things. You are either going to make them suspicious, or you're going to beat them into compliance because they just are tired of hearing you talk. So, enunciate, speak slowly. Not, hi, how are you today? You know, the sloth in Zootopia? Don't do that. That's condescending. But lower your speed, your rate of speech. Don't talk like I do. Don't bounce around. I'm able to speak a little bit faster because this is being recorded, so you can go back and watch this slowly. And ask for help. Again, we are social creatures. We're built around a herd mentality. Asking for help triggers something instinctive in us. We want to help. We need to help. That's how we survive. If I help you, I'm helping the whole. Right? Critical. Manage your expectations. You learn this a lot when you deal with addiction counseling. And somebody's probably going to have to correct me on the stats on this, but if I'm remembering correctly, a person tries to beat an addiction on average 13 times before they're successful. As a pen tester, as a social engineering engagement, your success rate is not going to be 100%. It may be high. You may be spectacular. You may be the Bill Clinton of pen testers and able to walk in like, you know, Jason Street. I just need to plug this rubber ducky into your computer here, wearing Darth Vader slippers and your professionally evil lanyard. I'm not that bad. My success rate is decent, but it's not perfect. Manage your expectations. Expect, plan for the worst, hope for the best. Influence. I love this picture. So, influence literally works like this, right? When you're influencing somebody, you are causing them to move in a direction that you want them to move in. Whether it is, I want you to walk me into the data center, I want you to give me your password, or I want you, kid who grew up in poverty, to know that you can achieve anything. This is something that hits home for me. I work in my hometown with at-risk kids. I was an at-risk kid. And actually, not to call you out, but one of the guys that I've worked with over the last few years is actually here today. And I'm super excited to introduce him to the community. Influence is a magnificent thing because you have the ability to change the path of someone else. Not just for your benefit or the pen test's end benefit, but you have the ability to communicate properly and use these principles to do something that really matters. You have the ability to communicate better with your spouse. You have the ability to communicate better with your boss, better with your targets, better with anybody. How do we come to understand influence? And I promise we talk a little bit more about Cialdini. So just in a little bit of digging, Cialdini right now is rated like number 8 in the most influential psychologists in the world. He literally wrote the book on influence. It's called Influence. He was very creative with the title. But it's a spectacular book. The way he came about all of this information is he actually, during the 70s, went through all of these different companies' sales teams, their sales training, and tried to act as a salesman. And he collected data from them. And he used that as his study. It was amazing. And then he'd go at the end of the study and say, hey, I'm actually, Dr. Robert Cialdini. I'm not here as a salesman. I'm a psychologist studying influence. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at how you're setting your influence up. And if it's all right with you for me to use your material and the data I pulled from here, I will give you, once I'm complete, the full spectrum of data from everybody that I've collected from. And he said, I gave them that option. And to an individual company, none of them said, no, you can't use our data. In fact, most of them were excited. They were like, you, the doctor's coming to us to ask us for how we do it? Oh yeah, you got it. But this is a seminal work. If you are doing any kind of social engineering, any kind of influence, read this book. He's got 3 others, Persuasion, Influence, and I cannot remember off the top of my head the other title. I'll include it in the end of the slideshow when I post it on Twits. But the techniques of influence are pretty simple. There's 6 of them. There's reciprocity, consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. Reciprocity is the same thing as tit for tat. I do a good turn for you, you'll do a good turn for me later. Right? Consistency. Follow through. Don't flake. Don't wuss out. Be consistent in your actions, in your speech, and in what you do. The social proof. You guys have all seen clickbait. We found that in your area, 75% of people really like this X product. Well, that's fantastic. I don't live in that area. I use VPN. Ha! I don't speak Danish. But liking. We are more apt to work with somebody and to be responsive to their requests if we like them. And how do we like someone? Well, generally, if they're like us. So, watch your body language. Don't mirror your target's body language, but take on some of the things. Like if your target is making very small gestures and you're big ones, pull it back in a little bit. Control your communication style. Authority. This is not a call to authority. Some people misconstrue this. This is being an authority. It's speaking with authority. Don't fake it. You can't take someone somewhere that you've never been. Sorry, there was, I guess, an F1 that just drove by and this little kid's on his dad's shoulder phone. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, I know exactly how you feel about it. Scarcity. Scarcity is limited supply, limited time. Only 5 of these items left. Order soon! I'm an Amazon business, so that one, I see that all the time. If it runs out that fast, I really don't need it. But leveraging these, you can cause someone to change their behavioral patterns. You can cause them to change the direction they were traveling in. Finally, it results in behavior change. This is the end goal. Whether it is the security guard at the security desk, the behavioral change you want is for him to put down his clipboard, turn off the basketball game, and take me to the CEO's office so that I can drink his scotch and I can plug my USB in and take photos of myself kicked back on his chair. Or, again, it's that kid that doesn't believe that he can do it. I want him to know that he can, that there's more to life than what he's seen. I want my wife to know that I care. So, the point is, communicate with purpose. How to do it? Understand what your goal is, and understand how the person is responding. How many of you guys do change management? Yeah. I worked in DevOps for a while, and we did a lot of change management, and it made me cry so hard. But the point of change management is so when something breaks, you can roll it back. You can see what changes and make sure that everything works. That's the great thing about GitHub, right? Not only that, you can track who made the change. Track your changes with the person you're interacting with. Adjust your techniques based on that. I'm going to close with 2 little things. One is a quote from Robin Drew. The only goal I have for either myself or the individuals I teach is that in every interaction, the other person should walk away feeling much better for having met you. The goal of social engineering is to make a change in someone else. The social engineer has this great motto in their training: leave people feeling better for having met you. It's easy to manipulate, it's easy to blackmail, it's easy to coerce and threaten to get compliance. It's so much harder to use people wanting to help you. And in the case of working with at-risk kids, addicts, family members, those aren't really going to work. You do that and you destroy every bit of influence, every bit of rapport you have developed with that person. Make them feel better for having met you. The last one. We would mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies of the world would also change. To some extent, we can influence others. The first place that the change needs to start is you. You are an instrument of change. You are the thing that makes the world different. So, after this, after today, go out, decide what change you want to see in the world, and be that change.